This is the partially restored Lock 36 on the Sandy and Beaver Canal. I'm Darren, and this is the Industrial Revolution. First charted in 1828, but not actually opened until 1848, 20 years later, the Sandy and Beaver Canal connected from the much more popular, much larger, much more successful Ohio and Erie Canal to the Ohio River. From the Ohio River, of course, you could connect to Pittsburgh by going upriver. You could go down to the Mississippi River, to New Orleans, down to the Gulf of Mexico, out to the Atlantic and on to Europe. So this canal allowed for all those connections. Let's take a closer look.
Here's a map showing the route of the canal, stretching 73 miles from the Ohio and Erie Canal on the west end, all the way to the Ohio River on the east end.
The Sandy and Beaver Canal was broken into three separate sections, just as the way they thought of it, more than anything else, as well as the construction planning for it. The first section, called the Western Division, that began with a 400-foot, 120-meter long aqueduct that ran 28 feet, or about 8.5 meters above the Tuscarawas River. The far end of that connected to the Ohio and Erie Canal, and that's where the Sandy Beaver Canal began. You start off with a 400-foot long aqueduct, and in the western section, you would climb 35 locks, which brought you up about 220 feet, 60 meters, up over a large ridge you had to cross in order to get to the Ohio River. Once you reached that part, you'd hit the middle division. The middle division, no climb at all. The middle division was fairly flat. It did, however, have two tunnels. It had the big tunnel at, depending on which source you believe, either 2,700 feet or 3,180 feet long, and a little tunnel at about 1,000 feet long. The tunnels reach about 17 feet, or about 5.25 meters tall. After you pass the middle division, you come into the eastern division. The eastern division, you're going back down to the Ohio River. You'd go down 455 feet, or 140 meters, through 55 locks, and that would eventually take you into the state of Pennsylvania for 3/4 of a mile before you hit the Ohio River. The canal itself, of course, the locks were made of stone with large wooden lock gates. The lock gates have been restored, and this gives you an idea of just how tall some of these lock gates could be. You have to remember, the canal had a minimum water depth of 4 feet. So you'd have 4 feet up from the bottom, absolute minimum. Could be a little bit more than that, even in the locks. And typically a lock could drop up to about 10 feet or so in this era of canal. These gates have been restored. The triangular piece at the bottom here, this would actually have been stone, not wood. And the gates would close against that stone. You'll see that they're also beveled on the sides. The gates close up against each other and against that stone. And the pressure from the water above it then prevents the locks from being able to open. At the far bottom here, you have the wicket gates. These are rotated through levers at the top of the gate. That's what lets water in and out, and that's also pretty much what defines your 10-foot limit. The upper gates would have the same system. These are the lower gates, obviously. But the upper gates, located up here at this end, the wicket gates would have been potentially 10 feet above the water surface. And at that height, the pressure of the water coming in could spray water into your canal boat. It'd be like taking a canal boat under a waterfall. As we head up the canal here a bit further, we do see the recesses where these upper gates sat. And we can see some of the parts of the metal bracing that held the gates on, were essentially the hinges. You see the stone is in pretty rough shape here, but that's because it has been here for about 175 years or so. So you can see it's a partial lock restoration which is done here. Restoration began in 1988. It was completed in 1991. The stone was largely cleaned, and the parts with the wood walls over it, obviously the stone there was not solid enough, so it did require the reinforcement to prevent it from collapsing. There's a good chance this was actually full of dirt at the time as well. These do tend to fill in. The wood gates were actually constructed during that era using all period tools, and they did that out here in the park in public. Currently we are in Beaver Creek State Park in Ohio, and the wood gates were built using all period tools and costumed craftsmen doing the work. So visitors to the park could see period tools being used to actually reproduce the lock here. The wood floor on the bottom, there are some pictures that indicate this may have been wood on the bottom. Many locks were actually stone on the bottom. Interestingly, as we head up along the Little Beaver River, come across this structure. This was a guard lock, that's what they called it here. And you just have a single set of gates, just like the standard lock gates. And between here and the lock below us, lock 35, that was a constant level of water. This would basically allow you to shut down the section of the canal below us by closing these gates, and opening the gates at the other end, you could drain a large section of the canal. Just beyond here is the Little Beaver River. So the canal would have actually gone through the Little Beaver River up to this point. Would have been a small dam below here to divert water. Go through the guard gates here, and that would take you down to the lock 35 past Gaston's Mill and on down to the Ohio River. Well, today the dam is gone and the guard gates are gone, and you'll notice I'm walking through the canal route and it's dry. It's because the dam is gone. Today you actually have a pump house that provides water for the mill pond and Gaston's Mill. Check out my video on Gaston's Mill. Links in the description for that. But today, this is where it's getting its water. Puts it right back into the original channel from nearly 200 years ago. Let's head up here onto the towpath. See the old canal route. Water's a little bit low right now compared to what it would have been during operation. Towpath would have seen primarily mules, typically a 2-mule team, pulling canal boats along here. Some of the passenger boats could have been 2 horses because they could handle a little more speed. The mules would do 2 to 3 miles an hour. The horses would do 3 to 4 miles an hour. There was a speed limit out here on the canal of 4 miles an hour. That was imposed primarily to minimize erosion, wakes, that sort of thing. With a 4 mile an hour pace, slightly faster than what I'm walking today. In the case of both the horses and the mules, they were led by a hoggie. That person would have often been a young boy, but not necessarily, who might be out walking for 8, 10, 12 hours, leading the mules or the horses at typically a fairly relaxed walking pace down the towpath all day, every day, to move the cargo. Coming up here on the mill pond, this is behind Gaston's dam, or excuse me, it's behind Gaston's mill. So what actually happened to the canal here? Well, unfortunately, it didn't really have a very long life. It was privately funded, and many of the shorter spur canals were. It's one of several canals connecting east-west between the Ohio and Erie Canal and the Ohio River. But in this case, it had challenges from the beginning, mostly in the middle section, which you'd think is odd because the middle section had no locks or anything to worry about. It did have a few aqueducts and the 2 tunnels. The tunnels were problematic from the beginning, but that's not what ultimately did it in. Ultimately, on April 12th, 1852, just 4 years into operation, the Cold Run Reservoir Dam in Lisbon, Ohio, suffered catastrophic failure. At that point, they decided this canal was more trouble than it was worth, and they shut it down permanently. Today, here in Beaver Creek State Park, you can see a piece of it restored, as well as a restored lock. And there's a few other pieces where you can see locks here and there, but there's not much left of this canal, unfortunately. It wasn't that massive of an economic impact. It wasn't that popular. Mills along it were built and continued to operate, but the canal itself was shut down. Despite that fact, canals like this are the Industrial Revolution. Hey, wait, before you go, I need your help to keep going here. So as you can see, I'm out here today in Smoky Mountains, filming on location. Almost every video I do is on location, and unfortunately that's not cheap. So if you could help me out, I'd really appreciate it. There's some easy ways to do that. First way to help me out, it's completely free. Just hit like and subscribe and share this video with your friends. Draw more people to the channel. That's great. That helps a lot. Also, you can comment. I love reading the comments, and I've had some great ideas from those comments, in fact. Finally, if you can help out on Patreon, Industrial Revolution at patreon.com/Industrial Revolution, or hit Super Thanks, or something I just added just before recording this. I have a affiliate store set up on the link to the video on the channel or on the closing screen here. Hit the shop button. That'll take you out to my webpage. Follow any of those links out to Amazon or other sites, and the channel will get a percentage of your entire purchase, even if you don't purchase that thing you look at. So lots of cool stuff over there. All of those really help the channel out a lot. Thanks for coming again and watching the video, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.